Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will send a phone for you. Sometimes the end game is the perfect place to start. Sometimes you want to pretend the prequels were never a thing. Let's just pod race to the end.
It's working!
And every movie has a plot hole. And every hole gets filled somehow. With whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you. Hey, everybody, welcome to a special edition of the Plotaholics Live. We have a big podcast episode coming up this week, so we thought we should do some of our housekeeping stuff off of the podcast so that we can devote all of our attention to what we have coming up. And
it's going to be big.
I think, and I don't know how we're going to get all the way through it. We are doing our very spoilery Endgame episode. We're recording tonight. If you haven't
watched it yet, if you haven't watched it by the time we upload it, hope you're not bothered by spoilers because it's going to be riddled with them. Spoilers and blue milk, baby. Spoilers
and blue milk. Yeah, absolutely. So we are recording that tonight, so you can look for that spoilery Endgame episode tomorrow, in the next couple of days for sure.
Yeah, at least by the weekend.
Absolutely. So Bryan, we are here to run down the on the radar pop culture happenings of the last week or two,
there's a lot going on. It's a great time to be a geek. It's an amazing time to be just into things right now. Because I mean, we've got Game of Thrones. We just had the insane Game of Thrones this past Sunday. So I hear. I don't have HBO yet, but I will be watching it soon. But that Game of Thrones thing is one of our stories that we have coming up. And let's go ahead and take a gander. The Game of Thrones this week, it was the third episode of the 8th season of Game of Thrones. Now there's only 6 episodes, right?
Yeah, there are only 6 in this one. So, and they're all, at least I would say probably 4 of them are longer than the hour.
Okay.
So you're getting some extended runtime on some of these episodes.
Nice.
The long night that aired this past Sunday was one of those episodes that went just shy of an hour and a half, actually.
Oh, wow.
I think the runtime on it was 82 minutes.
All right. You almost got an hour and a half. All right.
Yeah, and I know that we're going to talk about this tonight with Joe Compton on the podcast, but like you alluded to, like I don't remember there being such a feverish pop culture geek weekend or moment between Endgame and Game of Thrones. Like it was like pop culture pandemonium on social media this weekend.
It really was. And it's like the Starks are just like ruling the nerd world because you got Tony in the MCU, and then you've got Arya and what's her sister's name? Sansa, Bran, and Jon Snow running things on the Game of Thrones side. And I mean,
and
amazing.
I don't want to get too into like story stuff with Game of Thrones because this is not one of our review episodes. But what I did want to talk about was this sort of controversy with the way that the episode was filmed, or at least the way that it aired.
Yeah, I did hear it was like really, really dark.
Yeah.
Now, was the picture that you put up, is that indicative of what it looked like throughout?
Yeah, so this picture, when I saw this picture a little bit earlier, I was struck. It looks like it's been brightened, honestly.
It really does. It does.
Yeah, because you can tell if you've got any kind of an eye for editing and stuff, that the brightness on that picture has been dialed up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things, so the cinematographer came out today and he said, essentially, he said, it's not our fault that you don't know how to tune your TV settings.
Keeping it real.
Yeah, so throwing some major shade. And honestly, I'm not even mad at him. And it was dark. I watched it when it was on, and it was really dark. But at the same time, I felt like that was kind of the point. You know, it was supposed to feel chaotic, and it was supposed to be hard to see because it was hard for them to see. You know, like it really. I felt like it put me in it.
Yeah, it's immersive. It's put you into the situation. You know what? I think in our culture, I don't know. Do you think that this is sort of showing that we're really, really kind of pampered a little bit? Like we want to be fully immersed in it, but then they immerse us in it, and then people complain.
Yeah, I don't know, because I feel like as the episode wore on, and other people can chime in if they'd like. As the episode wore on, it got easier to see it, and so I feel like it was really just playing on the sort of anticipation of that moment. And we're a storytelling podcast, and you can't ignore these visual choices that are made in shows like this, because that's a part of the storytelling,
right?
And a huge sort of note that kept getting hit in the early moments of this episode was the uncertainty of what was out there in the darkness. And so if you can see everything, that sort of rings hollow, you know?
Right. Well, it's just like in the old Friday the 13th movies. I mean, what made those movies so great was it certainly wasn't the dialogue. It was the atmosphere. You know, it was that seclusion and darkness of that camp. And even when it was daytime, it was still darker than normal, and that's what really, really made it, because you didn't know what was around that corner. If you play the Friday the 13th video game, it's just like that. They've captured that.
Now, I've never played that game, but just looking at trailers for it, yeah, it looks dark, real dark.
It really is. And it's like, you've got to be, if you're playing as Jason, you've got to really like mind your P's and Q's to find the campers. And if you're a camper, you especially have to work hard, because the campers are wearing bright colors. Jason's wearing dark colors. So you've really got to be careful.
Yeah.
Joe's absolutely right. The different ways to kill in that game. As just to digress from that, if you haven't played it yet, if you're like Shane, you haven't played it yet, I would check it out, because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
So I guess we'll pivot then into the other big story of the weekend. And again, not really talking story here, just the mammoth opening.
That's another show.
The mammoth opening of Avengers Endgame here.
Mammoth. I mean, do you really think mammoth is a strong enough word? I would say it's woolly mammoth sized.
Yeah.
It is unreal. That's almost Galactus style. I mean, almost $400 million from Thursday to Sunday. I mean,
in the US alone.
And 1.2 billion combined worldwide in less than a week, shattering its predecessor, Infinity War.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it is threatening, at least, the James Cameron the James Cameron action, you know.
Yes, it is. Oh my goodness, is it ever?
Because I might be wrong, but I think that the $1.2 billion opening put it already at 10th place.
I'm actually
globally.
look that up right now.
So the big question is, will it catch Titanic or Avatar, who have enjoyed like a very long run at the top of that list?
Well, I think what's crazy is that, all right, so when Titanic did it back in, was it 97?
Yeah.
It was a big deal because the top spot had been held for so long. But then when Avatar did it, it's like, I didn't see that coming in less than 20 years.
Well, and Avatar really benefited from the inflated 3D sales, because remember back then a 3D movie cost more than other movies. So that sort of helped bump it up, at least bump that total up.
Right. I'm still trying to look it up. I'm just sort of, I'm off my mojo today. Let me see.
Are you on your Box Office Mojo?
I'm on boxofficemojo.com now. Yeah. Worldwide, Avatar made $2,787,965,087. So Endgame, after less than a
opening weekend
in theaters, is already almost there. Living on a prayer.
And that's crazy. And honestly, like, there will be precipitous drop off for Endgame. There will be repeat viewings from a lot of people, but
yeah, I'm going to go see it again this week. I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I'd like to as well. And and again, the storytelling angle I'd like to hit on here is, if you are at all interested in this movie really benefits from seeing it with a crowd.
It does. And to your point previously, it is in 10th place all time.
Already.
Less than a week. Endgame is already in 10th place in the all-time box office.
Yeah.
That is insane. The only films ahead of it: Black Panther at 9th place, Avengers Age of Ultron, Furious 7, The Avengers, Jurassic World, Avatar. So it could do it. I mean, it's only 6 spots away from $2 billion, and it's amazing. If any movie in recent memory is gonna knock off Avatar, it's gonna be Endgame. And what a boon to Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige if that happens. And how far we've come in just 25 years, with Blade being one of the first, Blade and Spawn being among the first recognized comic book films to come out in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, that was when it started to turn. And we had a long talk a couple of weeks ago about the disillusionment that we all felt after that run of like Batman and Fantastic Fours and Daredevil. And like that moment, it did take a second to recover and give us Blade and then Spider-Man and X-Men and those movies that did absolutely push us further into, where we are now.
And then the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, and then Iron Man.
Yeah, and at some point there's a conversation to be had about where Endgame stacks up. It's still too recent at this point, I think, to like really place it fairly in the great storytelling archives of comic book superhero movies.
I agree.
I still think
it has to be seen again a couple of times.
I still think that The Dark Knight is a masterpiece of storytelling. So
agreed.
I don't know.
Absolutely agreed. The Dark Knight, everything with The Dark Knight just came together so amazingly, with Heath Ledger, Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, and Christian Bale.
Yeah.
And I purposefully mentioned Bale last for a reason.
Right.
But with the storytelling, the action, the way everything came together, The Dark Knight is still the creme de la creme.
Absolutely. I believe so. And the reason that I think that The Dark Knight maybe doesn't belong at the top of the comic book movie list, but is a better film than Endgame, is that it transcends comic book movies. Like, it's not just a hero movie.
Comic movie. No, it's not. It does everything a film is supposed to do. It challenges you. It challenges your perception. It challenges your own what's the word I'm looking for? It challenges it makes you challenge who you are. I mean, in the main scene that I'm talking about that challenges you is the scene where the one fairy has a detonator and the other fairy has a detonator. And you're hearing that discussion back and forth. And it makes you challenge yourself, because I remember watching that for the first time. And I looked at my ex-wife and said, what would you do?
Yeah. It goes back to that, the point that we made in our Marvel talk last week about like the conflict being physical on one level, but also philosophical, right?
Exactly.
And the way that they talk about darkness and light and order and chaos sort of needing each other in order to survive, I think is really smart. And Joe actually makes a very good point. I think that Spider-Man 2 also has to be in that conversation because it also transcends.
Absolutely. I would actually say they're, for the top spot, they're interchangeable. I think they're 1-1.
Yeah, and I would add Black Panther to that conversation if you wanted to have like a holy trilogy of films that sort of transcend the genre, just because of what Black Panther meant to an entire, group of people, an entire culture, and also because of the compelling villain that Killmonger was, which we've already talked about.
Absolutely. So I would say, yeah, that's the holy trilogy of films that definitely transcend the genre. Endgame doesn't so much transcend the genre, but it further legitimizes the genre.
Yeah.
It's a strong film. When I say what I'm going to say, I'm in no way throwing a knock at it. Absolutely not, because I love the movie. It's not a transcending film. It's not that. What it does is it showcases great storytelling of a genre over the last 11 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that step of transcendence, but I think that I'm willing to give it that's as close as you're going to get to it without being able to.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like, just the emotional impact of that film.
Oh my God. I cried beginning, middle, end. I laughed beginning, middle, end. And I had fury beginning, middle, and end. And I love it. I love it so much. So
Joe also posits the Winter Soldier as one of those in that conversation.
I'll put it in second place. I would be willing. I had to see the Winter Soldier 3 times before I could appreciate it. I saw it once in theaters and hated it. Absolutely hated it. Wanted nothing else to do with it. And then I watched it again by happenstance. And I think that's when I truly said, yeah, Chris Evans is my Captain America. And then the third time I watched it, it's like, yep, this is art right here. This is art. So it took, but I would put it in, if we're going to go, I would actually say, Winter Soldier isn't just a comic movie. It's a great espionage spy story, because that twist, you didn't see coming. It was really well done. It was like the Russos. It was almost like M. Night Shyamalan was like, yeah, you remember that twist I had for The Sixth Sense? Nobody's beating that. And the Russos are like, hold our beer.
Yeah, that's, and I think that you get sort of at what makes a genre-defying film, right? Mm-hmm. Is that because, like, The Dark Knight is a detective film that has a hero in it, right? And Spider-Man is a coming-of-age story that has a hero in it. And Winter Soldier is a espionage thriller that has a hero in it. So like you have sort of that genre bending going on in some of these.
Absolutely. I can definitely get behind it. And honestly, I'll say this. If Winter Soldier isn't as good as it was, the MCU doesn't have as much it doesn't have as much strength. And you know what, Blake is absolutely right. If Winter Soldier had been just a spy thriller, it would have been incredible. Honestly, if we're looking at the best spy films of the last, say, 15 years, I would be willing to put Winter Soldier in that conversation with the first Mission Impossible, with the first Jason Bourne. I would put that in there right with that. Absolutely great.
And that's the thing is, I don't think that the presence of a superhero should disqualify these movies from being involved in these other conversations.
Not at all. Not even a little bit.
Because the best superhero, the best movies, the best art is always a little bit of several different things, right? Like there will always be some element of genre bending. All right, so we got to wrap that up. We could talk about that forever. We got a couple of other things.
Yes, we can. That's another live show. That's another live special.
Yeah, gonna get into it.
But this is something that's really, really close to my heart. You're talking about a great week in geekdom. Shane, we have a He-Man.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a He-Man.
Now, who is this kid?
Oh man, so and you know what? Let's see. Hold on. So this kid is not in a ton of stuff, honestly.
22.
I'm sorry. You say he's only 22?
He's only 22. This is like this kid. This could be Mark Ruffalo's kid, man. He could be.
It really could be. That dude could be Mark Ruffalo's kid.
He's Baby Banner.
That is excellent. Let's see. I call myself having his name here somewhere, but I guess I have misplaced it.
Let me see here. Let me see what I can do for you. He-Man.
Regardless, the announcement was made last night on Jimmy Fallon that this guy's going to play our new He-Man. And so, like, I'm a kid that grew up with He-Man, you know, and I had this. I had all the toys and I had that little green tiger and, like I loved Masters of the Universe, the animated series now.
Oh my God. I grew up with it as well. And I literally had everyone. I had the Hordax. I had Skeletor and his minions. I had everyone from Eternia. Noah Centineo.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I was a huge fan. I was one of those kids in the 80s that was pumped when they made a live action film and called it, and it was Masters of the Universe. And I was so excited. And I went to go see the movie. And what the?
You know what? I think I rented it on VHS when I was a kid and had a very similar reaction.
I saw it on Betamax, brother. On Betamax, yeah.
You're one of the real ones, you know.
Yeah, I'm from the old school. Yeah, and I'm like, why is Ivan Drago He-Man?
Yeah,
and where's Prince Adam?
All very good questions. So anyway, Mark Ruffalo Jr. is going to be our next He-Man. Blake says he looks like Rami Malek and Vilmer Valderrama.
With a little bit of muscle milk and blue milk for good measure.
Yeah, but honestly, the kid is not very ripped. They're going to have to pack some mass on this kid if he's going to be. Yeah,
he's going to have to hit the gym. He really is. He's going to have to call Dwayne Johnson. And
now, unless they're going to do this kid is Prince Adam and then like The Rock is He-Man, like after he like
that I could see. I could see. Oh my God. I have a nerd boner just thinking about it.
Yeah, they'll take like the Toxic Avenger approach to it. Where like just completely different people play these guys.
But he's not really a small guy though. I mean, he could probably how much time is he gonna have to pack on some muscle? I mean, he's gonna
if they're just announcing that he's the guy, then he probably has, I would assume, at least several months, if not a year, to hit the gym and get ready.
Yeah, he's gonna have to, or they're gonna CGI muscle on him.
Yes, CGI muscle.
He's gonna look like the Spartans in frickin' 300.
Right. Yeah. They'll just airbrush some abs.
Yeah, why not? He could be just like the Giant Gonzalez going up against the Undertaker. Just wear an airbrush suit with muscles on it and frickin' just hair on the shoulder.
He'll be like the kid Michael Cera in Arrested Development when he was in the painting.
Oh my God! What's next? Are you going to get Creed Batten to play Skeletor?
I'm there for Creed Bratton and Skeletor, honestly.
That would actually be kind. You know what? I
Yeah.
said that as a joke, but that would be kind of cool. I wonder how old is Frank Langella, because I think he was a great Skeletor. Frank Langella was a great Skeletor, so I wouldn't mind seeing him as Skeletor. Chris Hemsworth would make a good He-Man. That's a good point. But Blake, man, he's firing on all cylinders.
He's coming in hot. He's
throwing haymakers. And the dude over here to my left is enjoying it too. My cat, the dude.
I will say we can have a debate here over what would be worse CGI. The CGI that it would take to make him look like the He-Man cartoon, or the CGI that they've made Sonic look like this.
Oh, God. Oh, sweet Jesus on Abraham toast. Oh.
Yeah, so we got the brand spanking new Sonic the Hedgehog trailer today, and
I like it. I wanted to like it. Why does this even need to be done? I asked the same question when they made it into. I mean, I kind of understood why they made it into a cartoon, because they wanted to keep making money off of the video game. I get it, but why? Sonic has not been relevant for years.
I saw this thing and I thought, did somebody ask for this? Like,
no,
who was sitting around a boardroom and greenlit the Sonic the Hedgehog movie in 2019?
Whoever did should be fired immediately. Kevin Feige, fire that man. It's not even a Marvel. Fire that man.
No, you know not at all.
I'm ready for this man to just walk in and give the "you're fired."
I have never gone from. Somebody shared the trailer with me earlier this morning, and my immediate response was, I've never gone from like despair to despondent to hopeful to angry so quickly over the course of a trailer. Because like, okay, so I see what it is, and I'm like,
oh,
okay,
God damn, wow, wow.
So I say, I was like, this isn't good. And then I see him on the road, and then I hear the same 6 measures of Gangsta's Paradise playing for 3 minutes without any lyrics. And so now I'm like really feeling down about it, because I don't know who the gangster is, because it's definitely not Sonic.
No, not even. And James
then I see
definitely not a gangster.
And then I see Jim Carrey, and I'm like, okay, maybe, maybe.
Jim Carrey.
Right. And then I see from the producers of The Fast and the Furious, and I check all the way out. So,
well, see, I see that, and I'm like, why? Why? Now, I like The Fast and the Furious for what it is. I will be going to see Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah.
But my whole thing is, why?
The Fast and the Furious, they're starting to have their like Guardians of the Galaxy moment, right? They're like, if we just put from the people that did Fast and the Furious on the front of it, people will go see it.
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of like Marvel. Like Marvel, I mean, seriously, like the next Marvel trailer could just be like, hi, I'm Kevin Feige. We're not going to show you anything because you're going to go see it later.
Right.
And people will be like,
yeah,
no!
Don't even. They can just start calling those movies Marvel movie number 23, and like we don't even know who's in it. We'll just show up.
We won't know until you sit down to watch the movie. But I mean, number one, Gangsta's Paradise, really. Right. The song is. It was great for its time. I guess it still has some relevance, but why would you put it in a film like this? No.
I just don't like how this picture of Sonic looks like the last 30 seconds of any adult film.
It looks like he almost looks like someone actually got it to the wrong hole.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? Foreshadowing, because anybody that goes and sees that movie is about to take it in the wrong hole.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? If your kids ask you to take them to go see this movie, I would consider adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. Just put them up.
Yeah, because it looks terrible. James Marsden, it's like you didn't get enough from that Peter Rabbit movie that you did with Russell Brand. You haven't had enough. You know what? He has Hugh Jackman to blame because Hugh Jackman just cuckolded him in the X-Men movies, and then it's just like, well, you're just in this stuff now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not going to be good. We are kind of up against it here. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about Singleton if you would like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
and we're going to have a more full tribute to Mr. Singleton on the podcast this week. But
absolutely,
Bryan, if you'd like.
Absolutely. John Singleton, the man was a trailblazer. When I found out he had a stroke, I was hoping against hope that he would be okay. I mean, we just had this like just within the last few months with who was it that had the stroke and like died suddenly? Sorry that it's escaping me.
Man.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, it's right there on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, I know.
But anyway, John Singleton in the early 90s, it wasn't often that you had a black filmmaker doing something like John Singleton did. I mean, yeah, you had Eddie Murphy, and but these were still this was still brand new. Eddie Murphy's Harlem Nights was like a brand new thing, and Spike Lee, that was still new. John Singleton came in and he was different from Eddie. He was different from Spike Lee. John Singleton took us into the hood and like showed everyone life in the hood. I mean, this was stuff that, I mean, I wasn't like a gangbanger by any means, but I was going through these things. I was a kid afraid to get the bus to school, worried about what color I was wearing because who would see me. And John Singleton brought that out. He spoke for an entire community with Boys in the Hood. And just the filmmaking, the plot, everything of Boys in the Hood was just a masterpiece. And to lose someone that influential with that powerful of a voice, it's hurtful. But thank God we had him, because if it wasn't for him, I mean, the Ryan Cooglers of the world and the Peele, the Jordan Peels, he was a trailblazer. He was the guy that showed Hollywood that you could get a black man to helm your films, and they would be profitable, because I mean, Harlem Nights didn't really do all that well. Robert Townsend, who was an amazing actor, an amazing director, an amazing writer, but he was still kind of considered indie, and even Spike Lee was considered indie. And John Singleton went into the mainstream and just took respect. I mean, he would not allow, he was offered $100,000 to not direct Boys in the Hood. And he said, no, this is my film. I'm doing this. And he did it. And every casting decision, if you have not seen Boys in the Hood, I challenge you to go and watch it. If you haven't watched it in a long time, I challenge you to go back to it, because it's just amazing. And, rest in peace to John Singleton,
Bryan, we were discussing before we went on the air that we're trying to decide what our next film should be. It feels fitting maybe that we do Boys in the Hood.
I think so.
After our Endgame episode, maybe we go there.
I think that's a great idea. I think that's an amazing idea, and I think we really should go there, because I think that there's a lot that Boys in the Hood, I mean, God, it's 2019, so you're looking at like 27, 28 years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of those tropes, a lot of that stuff is still relevant to this day.
Yeah.
And rest in peace, John Singleton. So there's never going to be another. There's never going to be another John Singleton. And I personally, as just being a black man with dreams, back when he first came on the scene, I was just a kid. And it's like, if he can do something like that, I can do something like that. An inspiration, truly an inspiration to a generation. And rest in peace, John.
Yes, indeed. Well, Bryan, man, we have done it again.
Yes.
We have set ourselves a deadline, and we have gone over it by about 20 minutes. So,
yeah.
But such is life when you are a plotaholic, right? You just don't know when to cut yourself off. So we, as we said at the top, if you're just joining us, we will be recording our spoilery Endgame episode of the podcast tonight.
Spoilers.
So you can look at that. You'll be able to download and listen to that by week's end on all of your podcast providers, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, etc. Still waiting on iTunes, right?
Yeah, we're still waiting on iTunes. I remember it said it could take up to 2 weeks. It's been over 2 weeks.
Yeah. So, it's probably about time to check on them.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna bust some chops and be like, "Hey, buddy, I'm gonna go Charlie Kelly on them."
There you go, wild card.
Practicing some bird law with the wild card.
That's right. All right. Well, for the Plotaholics and for on this week's radar, I am Shane Wilson,
and I'm Bryan Tan,
and we will see you again real soon.
See ya.
Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will send a phone for you. Sometimes the end game is the perfect place to start. Sometimes you like to pretend the prequels were never a real thing. Let's just pod race to the end.
It's working!
And every movie has a plot hole. And every hole gets filled somehow. With whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two with a Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you. Well, that's just like your opinion, man.